So what are we going to be talking about this morning? It's going to be about PowerShell and PowerShell Empire and like controlling Empire servers via PowerShell. This is actually, for me, it's a bigger project. So my end goal is to try to merge Empire and Bloodhound together. And to do this, I chose PowerShell so I can control both. I built both modules, and next year, I hope I can come back and show you the final project with the full automation. But the two modules are independent, so if you didn't see the Bloodhound talk, this is a talk itself about one tool. But do know that like it's PowerShell, so once you have more tools, it just adds up and more fun to it. On the menu for today, so again, a simple agenda. We're going to start by having a look at what is Empire, how does it work. I'll give you vocabularies and a quick 101 on what it is, and then we'll move to the module I wrote to control it and see where we can take that for further. Same thing, I consider myself to be a permanent noob, and I'm really humbled to be given the opportunity to express myself in front of so many like seasoned professionals. So that's it. I just love PowerShell, and I want to be a Ninja Cat. The goal for today is simply share passion, ideas, tools, joys and pain on, like, I do this in my spare time in my home lab. So I'm running against a team of developers, and I'm trying to keep up with all the change they put in it. So I know it's lost, but I still have fun with it. And yeah, take home what you like. That's good. So what is Empire? First of all, I give credits to the real creators of the tool. So I don't know if he's here today, but yeah, Harmjoy has been a big influence in my last 2 years with Bloodhound and Empire. So I owe him a lot, and the Shell Father as well. So all of them are in here. This is my way to like send some affection to people. I make memes. So yeah, contributors. So it's a collective project from the ex-ATD team, and they all now work for Spectre Ops. So if you're into offensive operation against Active Directory, I would really recommend to have a look at what Spectre Ops puts out there, because I think they have a great way of communicating their tools. And also now maintained by a few people. So if you go on the Empire Slack, you will meet Mr. 64-bit, Dakota Nelson, Zorior, and they're really helpful, ready to answer questions. So it's a big help. This is just a joke slide. I'm not going to make you read this all, but that's the definition of Empire as you see it on the wiki. I'm nice, so I cut it down to what you really need to know. And even if that's too much, we're going to cut it down to this. So don't worry. Any of you work in security? Just a raise of hands? Okay, just a few. So, well, I'm really impressed that you all came to see this, because it's quite a niche topic. Thanks so much. So I'm going to start by defining what is post-exploitation, and then we're going to zoom slowly into the details. This is what we call the attacker kill chain, or at least my version of it, but it's a way to model the steps an attacker will need to take in your network to try and classify everything, so to have a view of all those techniques, tactics, procedures. And on the defensive side, it's also to be seen as each step the attacker would take is an opportunity to catch the noise, the action, and so it goes both ways. It's the attacker kill chain, but it's also very useful for defense, basically. So it starts like this. I don't know if you're familiar, but anything before the exploit, let's say, would be outside of your network. That's your perimeter, and once you get exploited, it's on the internal network, and the next phase will start, basically. So the exploit could be a lot of very different things. I put 0-day a bit in gray here. That's a bit more for the legend, but mostly insiders, leaked creds, phishing is still the best way to do all this. Anything that happens after is what we would call post-exploitation, basically. Now, sorry. Say in an old school defense or maturing defenses, focus on avoiding the exploit and focus on the perimeter defense. So that would be your firewall, your antivirus, all your classic protections. And the idea behind is, well, you can't post-exploit if you can't exploit. That was maybe an old way of thinking, and it's been proven, I think it's in the news all over, that this is the wrong assumption, basically. What makes you think that you're unexploitable? That would be a big statement that you might not be able to hold, basically. So the more mature idea in defense nowadays is to assume breach. No matter what, you're still going to have those products at your perimeter to defend, but assume they fail and be on the lookout for what happens after, basically. So modern defense will focus more on what happens after, and this is where come the red team, blue team, purple team, threat hunting, adversary simulation, post-exploitation. So that's all what happens after, basically. Sorry. So if we come back to the initial question, what is Empire? Then it's simply a post-exploitation framework, so made to replicate the adversary action in your network. And that's basically the shortened definition compared to this whole blob of text you had. I'm going to give you some vocabulary so you can follow, because I'm going to be saying all this very often. So we talk about listeners, and a listener listens for his set of agents and receives the result. Each type of listener actually is a different communication profile, and I'll go a bit in details a bit later. We talk about stager, and this is the way to deliver your agent to the target. Then we have the agent, which calls the listener back at regular interval, like a beacon, asks if there's any task for him. If any, he will execute in memory and send the result back to the listener. And finally, we have modules. Sorry. So in the latest version of Empire, 284 modules at the moment, mostly PowerShell, but also Python has been incorporated in the framework so as to be able to attack OS X machines or other type of non-Windows system that could be in your domain as well. So I'm going to really give a very quick show on how that works. So you have the bad guy and the target. He's going to set up a listener, generate a stager for that type of listener. So you generate a stager for a specific listener. That stager will be delivered to target, and this is where you can think of phishing of many different ways, water holing. Or once the agent checks in to his listener, and he's going to start beaconing at regular intervals and asking, so that's the way how you bypass the firewall, is that the communication is from the inside to the outside and back. Otherwise you couldn't do it. Then he sleeps a bit, asks again, and if there's a module for him, when he asks, it will be sent. He will execute, send the results back, and you have a happy hacker. And that goes on, of course. So how does it look? I'm not even, well, we're going to see it later in the demos, but I'm not going to go into too many details on how that works. I think we're PowerShell freaks, so we like to have everything in our blue console. And that's what I try to do with any tool that has a REST API. I try to bring them in my tool set in my PowerShell toolbox, basically. Any questions so far on this very quick 101 on Empire? Is that clear enough for everybody? Yeah? So I'm going to start with a little demo, and this one is not necessarily about Empire, but let's say you have a great PowerShell module, and you would want to transform that into an Empire module. So the definition of the module, your module is a PowerShell module on the server, but the whole definition of the module is a Python file. So using the AST, let me put this with. Sorry, I had to change all my demos last minute because there's no Wi-Fi, so I'm a bit. And now I will have to reset all my machine and agents. So, but we're going to get there, and I have videos for the most complex demos, so we should be able to get there. That's the source. I'm going to go right there. So here I have, let's say, a module that I wrote, which is a simple PowerShell module to execute subnet ping with a threaded capability. So you scan your whole subnet in a flash. That's a tweet from Lee Holm that I transformed into a module. Now, once you have this module, I have a little command that I wrote, write Empire module. That's not really in the Empire Strike, but I think I show it at the same time because it's a good way. So if you want to contribute to great offensive tools, you can very easily transform your PowerShell into more, well, make it compatible for the framework, basically. Okay, sorry. So I'm going to go on this one. So I like to make tools that work with ASC and the AST. This one is also compatible with VS Code using the PS Editor services, I believe, the PS Editor object. And you can tap into the AST whether you're in Visual Studio Code or IAC. But I'm used to IAC, so I use IAC. And that's the shortcut for the alias for write Empire module. And if I do this, immediately, so he extracted the text, made a PS1 for it, and he wrote the whole definition of the module. Let's do this. So you see that he extracted from my Empire module, he extracted all the relevant information and put it in the script. So if I load this on my Empire module in the correct on my Empire server in the correct folder, this Pong that I had is now available for me to use in my operations, basically. So it's a very quick way, and I don't know, there's been a few talks around the AST. I think it's a fantastic way also to, the AST teaches you a lot about what you think you know about PowerShell by diving into how he sees it. And yeah, I've learned a lot by playing with the AST. I just love climbing that tree, so if you didn't do it, I would recommend it. And I have this module later in the demo, we'll be using it basically. So what is Empire Strike? It's, yeah, I like, each time there's a REST API, I'm going to try and use it. So Empire has a REST API, and I'm going to use, of course, PowerShell to try and tap into it. So these are the commands I wrote, and I know, like, this is very bad because I even have Jeffrey Snover in the room, but I explained already in the Bloodhound session that for these type of tools, I chose to hack a bit. And that, I mean, that's the freedom the framework gives you. If I put this on the gallery and I make an official tool for other people, I will use the invoke-empire and make longer commands. Here I found a way that I can request commands by verb, and it gives me all the commands of my modules, because we like to keep everything in a flat PS1 file. We don't like to make modules in offensive operation. It's quicker to pull and push somewhere, and you don't need all the fuss. Of course, you can, I tried to do syntax redundancy also. Like, I added more commandlets than I needed, so you can, like, twist the whole syntax, and you always get a result. I don't like errors, so I try to make it that it always works. And of course, you can remove all the verb and use very short commands. So this is actually the commands you would use to do it. If you're scripting, maybe use the full length command. So that's special. I know, it was a choice. I'm trying to defend it, but this is not the recommended best practice, and like showing this in front of real PowerShell is a bit like crazy, but maybe I'm crazy.
You've proven you're a bad boy.
Thanks. Awesome. So yeah, that was the goal. I want to short syntax, too many aliases. So whatever because think type get was an awesome concept, but sometimes I don't think straight and I can't type. So I still want to get, and then that's why I added all this crazy stuff. Mostly, and that's for me what makes it so powerful, that with the pipeline and returning objects, all the pipeline can be piped into another, so you can say, give me all my list of agents and run that module against it. The command is that long, and you're hitting the whole network in one go. It's quite cool. Yeah. It is. So I'm first going to show you what the commandlets look like, and this is what I was explaining to Tobias. I set up everything upstairs, and I had the Wi-Fi, and I came down here when I learned it was down there, and the Wi-Fi wasn't strong enough, so I said, okay, quickly change stuff, and it's not working either, so that's my router here that I have in there, but it's not working. So I can still show you, I can still show you stuff, but please be kind enough that I might struggle in front of you, and so I don't know why I'm doing this. So let's have a look. So also, I like to make it a bit interactive. So if you have questions, and I know it's a PowerShell session, so if you have questions on the code itself, I would be happy to show you how I tackled the problem, and maybe you will have great advice on how to make it more efficient. And I would like that. But let's see what we can do with this. Oops, over here. You guys see my mouse? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's the drivers. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be really cool at the buzzer, but it's not working. That's also a module in Empire, so you can the command you could execute on the whole network could be this, and then all the machines at once starts playing in the Empire. And there's also Rick Astley. If you prefer Rick Astley, we also have Rick Astley in stock. So this I cannot show you, unfortunately. I don't have internet access, but this was to show where the API is documented in the code, and just to make a point that, of course, it's harder to keep the documentation updated, so code is the only documentation. And I had to learn a bit of, increase a bit my Python understanding to be able to get that. So it's also for me, and what I want to emphasize here is that PowerShell has been a gateway drug to so many stuff that I discovered via PowerShell, and then started learning a bit of Python, a bit of C#, .NET, and it kind of opened up your horizon with accessibility, and then you want to know more. So for me, it has been a great boost in my career, let's say. Now I want to show you another thing I do with the AST. So before, when I used to write, I got all excited, there's a new tool, so I take IST, I start writing code, making commandlets after the other, and then 500 lines down the road, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done it like this. So now my option is more to whiteboard my commandlets and my whole module, so with my nouns, then the verbs, and I start to list the parameters. Once I have all this, I put all this into 3 CSVs that are very ugly, and I run a script over it, and it writes the whole module definition for me. Then I can test my syntax, I can test if the syntax works, and if I'm happy with this, then I start coding the inside of my function. And I think that's, we all like to code, but that's a good tip, is really to take your time before jumping into the editor, to really architect the whole stuff in your head, have a clear view of where you're going, and then go for it. So I'm quickly going to show you how that looks, but it's quite fun, I think. I'm just going to show you quickly the CSV files. Here they open, yeah. So they're very flat, simple, stupid CSVs. Sorry, up. So I have my function names, I have all the parameters, I define if they're mandatory or optional parameters. Then I have another CSV that defines, so that was the parameters, these are the functions, sorry. Zoom in, yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to bring it on the good screen, and then zoom in. Oops, let's do something like 200. Might be ambitious. Okay, cool. So there I have my function, my alias. So all these bits that you know are in the function definition. Actually, now I see function definition as a CSV that's a bit bent to look like text, but it's actually just a matter of putting the right thing at the right place, and you get all those functionalities immediately. So I just love it. And yeah, synopsis, output type, default parameter, set name, help URI are here. And then the third one, I'll just show you that quickly. Oops, sorry. Where are we going? Yeah, here you see the commands and the parameter set. It's going to make sense when I show you how that works, if I can. So the only thing we're going to do, we're in the folder where the CSVs are, and I'm simply, so the whole tool set that I have to write modules from the command line, I called it Script Monkey because I used it in my old job and it was a bit a script factory with monkeys doing a job. No offense to anybody. And yeah, they fired us on Christmas Day, so I still have it here. And I'm going to go down and simply type CSV monkey. Oops. Oh yeah, I need a new page first. I'm going to do CSV monkey. And then it starts doing the job for you. So I'm writing like 20 commandlets like this while you're having coffee. And yeah, so that's all from the, I might stop it and not go all the way, but when you do this, it just works. I just let it go through to show you what I find powerful is that immediately after this, you can ask for your help page and you can check your syntax and all the different parameter set name and the different ways to request stuff. And you can assess first that it makes sense altogether as a module. And once it's done, so he's slowing down when switching the false. I'm making probably wrong checks somewhere, but that just works. And it's fantastic. I find it fantastic. Yeah, still going. I'll just show you. I guess you got the point anyway. Because I can't write code, but I can code that writes code. So that's quite cool. Now, oops, going back to this, I'll show you the commandlets. So let's go into ISC again and now really do the whole, what it looks like. Oops, okay. So the first thing you can do with my great syntax, yeah? This one is a bit of an ugly tool. I would love to share it and people to use it, but it's a bit of an ugly tool. I have like the most ugly aliases, like you see N for a new script pane, C to clear the screen, H for history. Even two letters is even a bit too much. Sometimes I get it wrong, so. It's not a joke. I'm really not joking. I don't know my left and my right, and I have a spatial disorder, I don't know. But you can live with it and you can have fun with power.
There's a great extension in the steroids. You just have to click one button and then you have all the command instead of your aliases. So
yeah. But I really like the ISC steroids, by the way. I think there's a lot of cool stuff. And I would really like if Microsoft would be nice enough to open source ISC, that we can start changing stuff like the framework. Because when you work at night in ISC, not only do you need your hoodie, but you need sunglasses. Because it's really like, it's a nightmare. But so I'm just loading a few variables so we can use them easily later. That's the long version of the syntax. So Empire admin login server, the name of your server, the user, the port, and I'm skipping SSL because I'm in my own little domain, but it does support SSL, of course. And if everything works, oh, of course not. Sorry, it's going to be a bit wobbly, and I apologize in advance because I'm like my heart is pounding and I'm sweating inside. I'm trying to keep my cool, but I know my demos are off. So let's resume all this. Okay. He failed, but that's normal. My VMs weren't turned on. Oops. So let's do this again. Oops. Demo is my password, so if you want, happy to share. So he connected and he's telling me, so we received the token. This is how I know I'm in the session. The session is cached locally as an object and will use every time as a default. And the cool stuff, not only can you control one Empire server, but you can have 10, you can have 20, and actually also 20 people could be working on the same server. So it really expands your tool in a way. Working via REST API is fantastic because you can now, it's a framework for one user. If you use it that way, it's a collective server. So it's quite fantastic. Now I'm going to log into another one. I have two, and just to show that, yeah, there you could use admin, but I also have server because I thought it makes sense to connect to a server. So the alias of admin is server. It's just like whatever you think, you're going to get there, and it should work. So, connecting to a second session. Running. Okay. Empire 2, did I not define it? Unable to connect. Let's do this again. Okay, I'll just work with one, that's okay, so I'm just gonna... We're on the first one session that I created, and you can ask for your token, you can check the version, so all these are functionalities of the API. I can check the config of my server, and of course, the beauty of it is we have objects, and I think we all love objects, so of course, then you could start acting upon these without having to grep, awk, and any kind of funky old school moves. That's a cool trick. There's on the server, you can have a static folder at the root of your empire, and you can serve files from that folder. So it's a well-known trick. The shame is that I had SA art on the second, but I won't be able to show you. But here I'm pulling a file from the server. You could have like instructions for your team, or let's say recipe of action on the server. They can pull it and start typing it immediately. You can restart and shut down, and I implemented the what if to not ruin my demos, so it's all good, but you could restart your empire. Just a little note, if you restart that way, it doesn't restart the REST API, so it's pointless. But that's probably something to deal with the code itself. And finally, when you have this, you can ask for the whole map of the API given by the API itself, so you don't need to read the code anymore. And these are all the different routes that are available and that I use in the background of the commandlet, basically. Let's check this. Oops. It's a bit clumsy, but we're going to get there. Bear with me. Up. So what you can do with this, in my profile, I have a little function that I wrote that outputs any kind of object into an empty table. So here, to document something that is not documented, I can produce a valid markdown. Oops. And then you get a MD file that you can post on GitHub, and that would look way better if I could show it on GitHub, but you get this nice formatted MD file directly by pulling all the info from the server, pushing it to outMD table, out file, publish on GitHub. So for me, automation is not about having that one final solution and automating the whole red team. It's about making little steps that make your life easy and chaining them all together. And at the end, you have a product that you feel in 3 strokes. I'm like shooting fire from my fingers. So I think that's the intention of that tool. And yeah, I just find that it works fantastically.
Will that be on the gallery?
outMD table? If you want, yeah. Or there's a lot of stuff I do and I don't check, because I think like people probably have better stuff. But yeah, producing Python out of or MD or any kind of code from PowerShell is quite funny, I find. So I can share that with you. Yeah, no problem. I want to show it online, but I can't, so I won't. So you could list all your session. I'm going to go quickly over this because I have no clue about the time. Okay, yeah, I'm good. So you can list your session in many different ways. There's even like for the Linux guys, I even implemented shortcuts from the shortcuts. So if you're really into like obscure stuff. Yeah, exactly. So that's Linux, and it's 1 character. It's my PowerShell alias. That's for the Linux guys. They're like 3-letter stuff. You can view a specific session. So anytime you don't specify an ID of a session or an agent, he's using the default one he has. And if you specify anything, he's going to go look for that object without changing your default. You're just looking at something. But if you don't specify anything, I can lock a session and a target and keep shooting very short commands without having to specify what agents I'm shooting at. So you can view your session, you can view a specific session, and then I can say session target 0. And at that point, it's set in memory, okay, I'm locked on target 0, on session 0. Session sync, you shouldn't need it, but if any of the objects are not cached properly, you can resync the whole session, so the list of agents, list of modules, list of listener, list of agents from that session quickly. And I cache those names locally because I love dynamic parameters for automatic tab completion. So when I say something, he looks at the local list and then sends the request to the server, basically. I'll skip on handling your session. I'm going to list my listeners. And we can see that on this server, I have one listener. Maybe I should show you the server at that moment. Connect to this. Whoops. So that's the Empires. Yeah, I like to customize everything. So that's also a custom, and if you're interested, I can share that one. It's awesome. That's a custom, it's a custom Linux distribution with i3WM on top of it. I don't know if any of you tried the tiled Windows Manager on Linux. That's like kind of awesome. You're at the command line, but you can still do your browser and stuff. I'll skip on that, but if anybody wants to talk about this after, I really love it. So that's my server here. So 286 modules, no listener, no agent. Well, actually, I started that. And here, so I'm querying the list of listener. I have one listener. It's an HTTP type listener, so he's listening for HTTP traffic. And go back to code. If I break my neck, you'll have to carry me foot front out of the room. Up. So, this is already done. I'm going to kill the listener so that we remove it. Success true. Sorry. Up. Maybe you want a bit bigger, actually. So here I just said listener kill. And in listener, I have HTTP. So the syntax would be listener kill, HTTP, enter, success, true. So now if I listen a list, probably there's no more listener in there. I'm going to use a listener HTTP. It caches that I'm using this. I can check the options for that listener. And they're all here as a nice object. And if I'm happy with the options, the way they're set, I can execute it. And you should see on my server, did I get a success? Yes. And we see here, killing listener, so I did that before, starting listener, listener started. So you can check on your server that everything is happening properly. Links. So to view a listener, so now I have this HTTP listener, I can view it, that's what I showed. You can expand with the PowerShell way, that's cool. I wasn't happy with the results, so I wrote a little unpack. That's an internal function, so it's not even, I'm not messing up anything, it's just a little something. So when I unpack it, then I get my nicer objects. I wrote help pages, they're not fully complete yet. It's a work in progress, but you can, of course, check your help pages to see how each command works. And I like to see directly examples. I think it speaks a lot, so I look often at examples, and syntax are very, very handy. Let's see what type of stager we can use. So all these are the different staging methods for your agents. And we'll see there's a lot depending on what you're targeting, but OS X macro, Windows macro. I'm going to use the generic one, the one we call multi-launcher, which is the classical. If you saw Daniel's Bahanen talk, it's the classical PowerShell, no profile, no, and this base 64 encoded stager behind. Oops. So you just say listener use multi-launcher. This is quite cool. So once I said that, he caches the option of the listener in memory, and I get tab completion on each of them. So here I could say up listener, and all the properties are already tab completing. Oops, and then you can generate it. And because I don't even want to pipe to set clipboard, I have a switch. A switch that adds it to your clipboard directly. So now if I go on my...
That's longer than typing to clipboard.
No, because I do dash T tab.
Oh.
So it's not longer. I mean, you should know this. You should know this. But yeah, no, you can do it. And if that day you forgot and you pipe it to set clipboard, it's just an extra option. Like languages are colorful. There's many ways to say the same thing, right? I like that. I like that. So sorry, don't disturb me too much, please, sir. I'm trying to stay focused here. And now you know why they call me the sad processor, because I'm very sad. I like to laugh about stuff, but I'm really feeling bad at the moment, so I'm making jokes. So I have my stager in the clipboard. I'm just going to simulate phishing by pasting this into a PowerShell prompt on a victim machine, but everything I said in the exploit could be that. So you could waterhole, you could have, I don't know. There's so many ways to do it that if you're interested, you can dig into it, but I'm just going to take the straightforward way. Let me pop a target machine. Took target 1. Here we go. Demo. It's nice Windows 10 box. I'm just going to paste my the content of my clipboard into the machine, press enter, and you should see if I bring the server now. You see that we've had the staging process happen and the agent is now alive. It's been completely staged and he's now beaconing with a jitter and interval asking, do you have anything for me? Like I showed in the videos before. So now that we have an agent, it gets interesting. So I'm just going to quickly put it in memory. So agent list, which each time you ask for a list, it caches an updated list. So that's how I get to update my local cache. When I create a new agent, I just ask for the list. And then next time it's going to be tab completable. Agent list stale, that's something, but if you work with Empire, your agents can go stale. So you can simply list stale, remove stale, and that would work as well. I'm going to put this in a variable. I can view the agents. So now we see and that's all objects. It's not text. So you could act or automate based on those properties. So that was view agent. Oops, and here we go. I'm going to set it as a target to say, okay, that's my default target. If I don't specify any other agent, that's the one you're going to be shooting at. So you can say agent target and the agent name, but you can also say target agent. It's quite cool. I like it. And then you can immediately start to execute commands on the agent. And here I just do a get date, and he should reply, yeah. So what you get here, the way Empire works, Empire does receive strings. So unless I specified in my command, I'm shooting at it that I want a JSON string, he's shooting me a string back, and that's really not something to work with. So I'll show you later, I added a switch for JSON. You can check your target at any moment. So you see I'm targeting session 0 with this as a default agent. And this I did already. Exec get date I did. If you specify an agent, here's the same, but that would be a different target, and he does it also. And then you can start to do fun stuff like agent list. I have only one because my demo failed and I had to restart everything, but I was hoping to have more. And I have a blind switch saying, okay, execute the command, but don't wait for the reply. I'll look at the reply and the results later. So this is a cool way to have all the machines do almost at the same time because you're shooting all of them, whereas otherwise you would shoot, wait for the result, shoot the next one, so it's less handy. But I would do the same thing, and then you can say agent list, show me the result, and you would see that, sorry, I have the results for this agent. Now the little cool thing because we love objects, so I implemented a JSON switch, which auto-appends a pipe convert to JSON after any command you shoot, and auto converts from JSON once the result comes back. So this single little JSON switch is like a lifesaver, because now if I do the same command, if If I run the same command and I ask for JSON, so I put it in an object, then I can, or let's look at the object. I have my full date object here, which is probably something you're used to. And then, of course, we can act upon a single property and start automating things. So now that's not really, if you look at the get member here, you're not really looking at a date object yet. It's actually a PS custom object. So the little trick here would be to cast it to a datetime with the ticks. And then if I get member on this, you will see that now I converted it back to a real datetime object that you could really consider like if you had it from the target itself, basically. Oops. Now, of course, there's not only executing commands. I like to execute commands, but you can execute modules. So I implemented a search function so that 284 modules is a lot. But you can search by keywords without putting brackets, without putting quotes around it. So that's the value from remaining arguments you can use. And that's quite a nice way to not have to put quotes, I find. You can search for Mimikatz and see all the modules in Empire that use Mimikatz, for example. So it's also a very good way to learn about what's inside, because in the framework it's not that easy to do. But in PowerShell we know our where and all our ways to filter. So search for a module with the name DLL in the name and show me those names. But you can also search, so you see there are 3 of them. But if I search for DLL in the description of the module, then you see I have a bit more actually. So it's a way to really navigate everything. And you can do, what did I just do? Oops. You can do some cool stuff if you want to know how many modules were written by the guy we're missing, Matt Graeber at the moment. I don't know where you are, but oops. So here you would see every module that in the comment reference to his blog, for example. So that's and here I can see how many modules Harmjoy contributed to. So out of the 280, he wrote 110 of them, for example. I can search for a SAT processor, and this is my moment of fame. Oh, no, sorry, that's not a module. Yeah, that's something else. If you have an agent, he's running on a computer and on the identity or in the context of a user. So searching for an agent, actually, I don't want to search for the name of the agent, but I probably want to search for the computer he's running on or for the user he's representing. And you can do this with the search user, SAT processor, and you see that it returns the agent that I'm currently, and if there were several, you could choose from which agent of that user you would want to use, for example. And you can do the same thing with the computer. I'll probably have to put one here. And you see I'm running on target 1 as user SAT processor, so that's how he brings back what I'm interested in for later is this, but I cannot query this, so I actually queried this and this. Make sense? Not sure, yeah. Oops. So that's my moment of fame. This is my only contribution to the offensive module is the troll sport Rick Astley, which plays Rick Astley on the buzzer. It's an awesome one. And here what I implemented was tab completion. So if you start saying module space and then you can tab between PowerShell and Python. You want PowerShell, you can tab all the categories immediately, and then you get only the names from that category. So this is dynamic parameters behind the hood. And it's just like fantastic for completing everything, basically. If you want to see the modules, you can use that same unpack. So any object that has an options property can be unpacked with that unpack command. And here I can immediately see what properties I could set on this module before executing it. You can do the same thing with lateral movement. So you can like navigate your modules very quickly and see which one would fit. If you want to see all the modules that are available, you can do this. And you get them all. And if you want to document everything, because there's no documentation about the modules, you can take this Empire Doc Builder, which is going to query all the modules. And out of those, let's see, 123 lines of PowerShell code, if I run this, Is it done? Yes. So I'm producing 20,000 lines of MD that can be immediately put on GitHub. And like here it doesn't look, but if I had internet, you could see that it creates a whole web page with navigatable hyperlinks that you can quickly find your thing. And so it's very, for me, documentation is very important. So I like to do stuff like this. And next time they add modules, I just run this again and I reproduce the whole doc again. So again, using the EST and stuff like this, it's quite cool. Moving on. Oops. So let's say this module we have, I hope this is going to work. So if I do this, I'm just looking at the module, and that's the module we wrote the manifest for earlier, and I put it in the correct folder, and you see now he's able to recognize what properties that we need to pass to it. And if I just want to use that module, I'm just adding the use behind it. But there's also a use commandlet, so you could say use module, but if you start by saying module, you can say module, the name, and use. It's like, you can do what you want. Now that I have said I want to use it, it's cached in memory locally. I can check the options for this module. Oops, did I not? Yeah. So there wasn't that many options. Agent is always going to be here. That's added by the framework, but the only parameter I had in my function was to say how many times do I want to ping. So it's a multi-thread ping on the whole subnet with one ping, but I could eventually do 2 or 3. Depends on the level of... That's not really stealthy, by the way, if you start... well, depending on the slash of your network. 24 is still okay, but you might make a lot of noise, but doesn't matter. So I could set the option. I can check it if I don't give a value. Oops. So, oh no, I have to give a value. So I can set it to 2, and then if I check it again, you see that my option is now here locally set to 2, and these are the options that will be used if I say strike. That's the name Empire Strike. So if I say strike now, I have my agent loaded as a target in my session. I have the modules, the options are set. I'm all good. Let's strike it. Oops. And if everything goes fine, did it? Oh, he's showing me, yeah, sorry. I even forget my own writing. So it's Empire Strike X. You need an X to make sure you want to execute it. Just out of safety, if I just say strike, he's showing me what's going to happen. And if I say strike-X, then it's executed, and I'm going to execute it blind to not get the result now. I could do it on the whole agent list. It's not looking as good if I only have one. Now that this is done and I set blind, I can move on to, results. And you see that the job started. I see my function that has been sent to it. And let's see. Per agent, you can do it. You can ask only for the last result. If I don't say list, showing only the last one, which is probably what you want. But if you want to see everything, just add the list and you get all the results. And if you want to see all your results for all your agents, then I guess you got it. Agent list, pipe, result list. That's, I guess, quite an easy syntax. So that's all the results for all my agents. Doesn't look great, but that was the idea. Now, this is a funny one also. So I tried to transform ISE into, let's say, an offensive notepad, where you would have your commands in the script pane, and from the command line, from the prompt, you would say, I want to shoot that line. So you can very quickly follow a process. So this is what we're going to do here. I'm going to... Is my line number correct? Yeah, this agent, so the Empire Sniper function, actually... That's the line number I'm executing, and it should return as target 2. So, and I'm not going to type, but I would do it from here. So you're there and you say sniper 325, enter, boom, and it gets the line, takes it, shoots it. And it also works with a multi-line. So, and there's an alias of XXX. No, because execute has an alias of S, strike has an alias X. Strike XX and sniper XXX. So I can really, And here I'm shooting the whole stuff. He's stripping the comments out, recognizing it's a comment. He's adding the semicolon at the end of the line, making it a one-liner, shooting it as a command. But for you, or for writing one-liners is like painful. So I like to have it nice and up, and he does the job the moment I want to shoot it, basically. And that's it. And you could, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm using, so there's two different objects, PES editor objects. I don't remember exactly how they go. That was a while ago, but I talked a bit with Joey yesterday. I think there's a bit of a difference between those two objects, so you can't exactly use the same code by referencing the different name of the object. Your code has to be quite different at the moment to be able to do those tricks in IAC and VS Code at the same time. But I implemented it for fun and to learn a bit of VS Code also, because there's cool functionalities in there, so yeah. I'm attracted also by VS Code. And you could again do it for all your lists with all your, but I think you got that by now. So that would shoot and you would get, I have a command only also, which is a way to select only a property. And it has an alias of name, so if I actually pipe to name, it selects only name. I know, you're starting to understand that it's endless. Basically, if it's your tool, if it's your stuff, you can, time after time, add new functionalities, and it gets huge. I don't remember all the alias and stuff, but if I'm typing, I know I'll get somewhere. Whatever comes to mind, I probably had the ID before, so server, admin, login, it just works. And because I'm not writing my commandlets, I have this, well, the manifesto is written automatically, I have this luxury to be able to make 30 commandlets even if I only need 15. Why not?
Sit on the keyboard and something will happen.
It might. So that was for the sniper. Of course, like it's not all about offensive. The offensive operation is made to be reported to the customer. So Empire has all this functionality of keeping track of all the commands you executed, all the events, any agent that logged in. And you can also, of course, tap into this. I'm thinking the next step would be to automatically generate a report out of your offensive operations. I know, why not? I mean, like the body of the report, and then you add but the main actions could be standard text blocks with the placeholders to fill in the data, basically. And of course, you can do your agent, so event type result, where agent name match agent. I love it so much. We're so close to English, basically, that you just add a few ticks and $signs here and there, but if you speak your commandlet, it's like proper English. That's fascinating. Agent time check-in, where date time timestamp greater than the date. So basically, I'm asking any agent that checked in the last 12 hours, stuff like this. So this you cannot do on the framework itself, but by being out of the framework and having all the tool set of PowerShell to then filter and your objects, you can very quickly get to interesting results, basically. There's way more to commandlets, but I'm not going to show them all if you're interested. This one will be released today after the talk. I'll put it on the PSConf website. The Bloodhound, I'm not sure because like I need to go back to 1.5. So if anybody wants the 1.4, I'll share it. But as soon as I go home, I'm going to start again writing some code. Let's see. How do I stand with time? Okay, let's do this. So that was it for this. I'm gonna now show you this one I recorded, and I'm actually quite happy I did that. I know people say, okay, you chicken out, you're not doing live demos. I said I will try live demos, and it wasn't great, so I'm happy I recorded the most complex one. I'm gonna actually, do I get real full screen if I do this? I'm not sure. Otherwise, I have it as a real... That's the biggest we get. Am I full screen? Or was it bigger before? Yeah? Okay. So wait. I'll show you the code first so you guys know what's going to happen, and then we see it in action. I think it makes more sense. Let me do this. Sorry if it's messy. We're going to get there. Up. Where I put this? Doo-doo-doo-doo. First track there, not this one. Oops. Yeah. So here, now that I say it's almost proper English, so on top I'm only setting variables that I will use down the line, so that if you wanted to use the same script for another target, you just change the top. I think you guys are used to this. But he's going to start by saying he's connecting to the Empire, then I'm connecting to it, he's going to wait a bit, he's creating a listener, and then here he's going to wait until we simulate the phishing, but he would wait until somebody gets phished. And as soon as somebody gets phished, he's going to start the whole process. So while one endless loop, here he's looking at, is it the first time that an agent comes in? If yes, he's comparing to the old list. I'm not going to go through it. But what we're going to see here is that at some point he sets it as a target. He checks if this agent is elevated, because the whole goal of this is to automatically install persistence, so to be there even if the machine reboots. So from the moment the user is phished to the moment persistence is installed on the machine, that's all automated. And there's a few checks on the way. Am I elevated? Can I bypass USC? And that's the whole branching that I tried to put in here. And I added voice for the audience, because I love the voice synthesizer stuff also. And if it's elevated, then he's gonna set up persistence, and then I'm gonna infect the target with some ransomware, which is way less dangerous than ransomware, but it's like as demonstrative, I would say. And then if that's done, he's gonna just exit the loop and say it's over. That was the idea here. You could do way more. My idea was not to automate getting domain admin, because I think that has already been done, and there's been a whole lot of conversation. Okay, you guys think you can automate the red team? Again, I'm not automating anybody's job as a whole. I'm giving little bits of automation for you to use in your job, which is for me a complete different way of seeing automation. Basically, I'm still the driver, but I have like automated stuff everywhere. And let's see that. Full screen. And here we go. I hope the sound will work. I'm not sure. So here, just demonstrating that I have no agents running at the moment. Yeah. Oops. Did I pause it doing this? Yes, maybe. Oh, shit. So that's the same code than the one you saw earlier. I love it. I put the English voice, it sounds more like it. So this is what you saw manually, but automated. So now I have the stager in my clipboard. I'm gonna just go and simulate phishing on the target, just like I did earlier. And he's waiting, so he's in the loop, waiting until new agent, yeah. We got a hit. So you see, the new agent just came in. She's gonna find it. He's gonna find it. So now elevation has been done. The elevated agent came in. So here I'm creating a scheduled task with a stager in it to kind of... And now I'm infecting target with ransomware, exiting loop, and you should see ransomware appear here. So at some point, it takes a while. Up. Like that. And now, so now we're simulating a reboot of the machine, end of the day or something happens, but then you're going to see as soon as he relogs in, we're going to see a new agent coming in, and that was the goal of this automation, basically. So lighting up, and you will see a new agent. So when you shut down, your old agents go stale, but immediately I have a new one that I can start working with. So.
Is the sound output because you're lazy to read?
No, I don't know. I think it sounds like Wipeout when you say booster and stuff. I like it. Makes it more video game style. No, it's for the fun. It's for demos, but also to show that all this tool set that you bring from PowerShell is now available for your. It's just like you add it to this snowball of stuff. The more little commandlets you have everywhere in your profile, they all add up. It's never individual pieces when you're in PowerShell. Whereas Empire or Bloodhound are separated tools, and you can work, but you're the one making the link. Whereas when PowerShell is linking them, then you are the control in one place, basically. So I just love it. What next? So if you want to try it out, please do so, and I'll share this one on the. I'll share this one. Yeah, have fun with it, write your own automation. I would like it that offensive team could write sequences and share them as little recipes of stuff to do. Like there's a lot that can be automated, not the real offensive stuff, but the classical situational awareness, gathering info can be automated. And me, I'm still trying to merge Bloodhound Empire and the Mitre API attack for those who are aware of this product. So I'm trying to make a whole one big object out of this. And just to tease you for next year, this is what it looks like when you import all your Empire infrastructure into Bloodhound. So here you see me, the bad guy, and I have two servers. This server has two listeners. On this listener, I have two agents running on those targets. So you can map, which helps when you have several servers. You can also use Bloodhound to map it. So this is what I'm trying to show here, basically. That's when you overlap the two tools, that's what I have in mind, and that's what I will try to demo next year if I'm authorized or if I manage. So, any questions so far? I referenced him because I knew he wasn't going to come, so I won't send him a bit of PowerShell love. That's the source for everything you saw here. The Empire is all on the Empire GitHub. The Empire Strike X will be in my some stuff folder for a while, and then I'll probably make a real module and some documentation, and that goes with it. And yeah, for me, that's the whole thing. Is like, no matter what, if you do offensive stuff or not, what I hope you get from this presentation is what, like, PowerShell is so fun, so easy, and so powerful that we all love it. So yeah, that was it. I have this very special spinning Jeffrey Snover. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to have a chat with you after this, and I just hope you enjoyed my little presentation. That was it.